Slow down, lay your burden down.
Hey, welcome to Divergent Paths with Dan Dunford. I'm the host, Dan Dunford, and very happy to announce that we've passed the 6-month mark on Divergent Paths, which is crazy to think about. It's not that many things I do for more than 6 months at a time. Trombone and this podcast are pretty much the only two, so that's really sad now that I think about it. Oh well. I hope you're having a good week. Hope you're listening to great music or playing great music or doing whatever it is that you do. So this week on the podcast, have a really fantastic piano trio. Now, piano trio is a fairly common ensemble traditionally throughout the history of classical music, throughout the history of music. But like it says on their website, Warp Trio is not your average piano trio. They do traditional music, but a lot of what they do, most of what they do, is improvisational and brings in a lot of different styles and personal quirks of the individual musicians. Warp Trio is made up of Mikael Darmanie on piano and keyboards, Josh Henderson on violin, and Ju Young Lee, or JY, on cello. And first off, they're fantastic, and really interesting guys. So on the interview, JY was out of town when we recorded this, so I sat down with Mikael and Josh and had a good time up at Josh's apartment, and talked about a lot of good stuff, which I feel like I say every week, but hasn't been untrue yet. So I'm going to keep saying that as long as it continues to be true, which I don't think it will not be true. That was awkward, but I'm just going to go with it. So on the end of this week's interview will be a track from Warp Trio's debut EP, which is called Warp Drive, and you can find online if you go to their website, warptrio.com. And check out their website no matter what, but you can check out their EP there. The song that's on the end is called Baseball, and it's, well, as you might expect, starts with Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and then it goes into some other interesting things from there. So give that a listen and check these guys out. They're really cool. As far as my own personal things, if you are really hankering to see me play Hello Dolly, well, you can drive up to Goshen, New York, 45 minutes out of New York, out of the city, or I don't know where it is in relative to other places, but it's far. I'll be doing some Hello Dolly this week. You're in town next week, and then who knows, the week after that. Woo, money. Awesome. So if you like the interview, leave a review on iTunes, rate it, let me know what you think. Shoot me an email at divergentpathspod@gmail.com or on Twitter at divergentpod. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy the episode.
Slow down.
So thanks, guys, for doing this. I really appreciate it. second try. Actually,
Take two.
Actually have microphones to record with this time. It's funny. It wasn't funny. It was really embarrassing for me, but this time.
Funny for us.
Well, some other people probably would have been like, yeah, no.
We're not available for the next year.
I actually had that happen with a guy who is a really great trumpet player and runs some really great stuff here in the city.
No,
yeah, right. Right. Well, there was just we set up a time and I emailed him and was like, I picked up a thing at the union. Can we push it back an hour? And he never gave me his number, so we were doing everything through email. So I was booking. It was really tight, but I could have made. I was like, great. I'm going up to the Upper East Side. Cool. Half hour's plenty of time. But I got stuck on the 6 train and I didn't have his number, so I couldn't be like, I'm really sorry. The 6 train stuck in the tunnel. And when I got there, someone was there and he left. And then I tried emailing him, I emailed him and was like, and then he just is, because before he was like really, he emailed me first and like everything was really cool. And then I tried emailing him again. And it was just like, yeah, he's lost my, I was like, well,
we gotta be flexible because they
I should have, that's partially, that's on me as well. Anyway. So, you guys, Josh, Mikael, 2 of the 3 members of Warp Trio. Let's get voice samples so we can...
Hi, Mikael.
This is Josh. This is Josh. This is Josh.
Is Josh's voice coming through okay?
Oh, yeah. I guess.
Okay, cool.
Right. You guys can...
Okay,
some
cool.
bass.
Some bass here. Talk really low. Talk like you mute.
Yes, Josh.
All right. So, the third member of the group is in absentia today, but that's JY.
Yeah.
Josh is violinist. Mikael plays the keyboards and the pianos. Mostly the pianos, and JY cello. What kind of Warp Trio? I think it's a really cool name. That's just me.
Oh, thank you.
Because I'm
none of us thought of it.
Of course, it's like Star Trek nerd, or just science fiction nerd. I'm like, warp, Let me push up my glasses. But and you guys are mostly like new music, new compositions, that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And teaching and concertizing in New York, but also a lot of stuff outside of the city, which is really cool. So kind of how did the group come about? I mean, who was the original? The regional warper, if you will.
Ju Young, JY, cello player, had an idea. Excuse me. He had a really cool idea to he was playing in a chamber group of some old dudes. So he was like, I want to play in a chamber group with like some non-old dudes, and maybe we can do some cool stuff, like maybe some new music. Maybe we can write some music, and it can be like jazzy and like rocky. We can put drums and have like electronics, and like really he's like, I want to play in a chamber group that can play like in Madison Square Garden and just like be like the Rolling Stones. So like that wasn't really working out with some other conventional piano trio stuff. So he's like, let's try like this, and then he got me, June's my best friend since we were like wee lads. So yeah, Josh plays violin. I do some composing and like a lot of writing and arranging stuff. And then another friend of ours, the original piano player, who actually couldn't do it. He got stuck overseas. But and then it just kind of went from there. We met Mikael shortly after that. And
before, like a week before the first show, right?
Yeah.
So, do you guys have like background in these kind of I don't want to call it alternative because that brings up just like 90s Sonic Youth, REM kind of vibes.
And
but
then the word crossover is equally.
Then you get Charlotte Church and Josh Groban. like there's no good words. A buddy of mine, Dave Whitwell, who's a trombonist and a pretty heavy guy around. but he was was posting about this thing like we're players of composed music, and I was like, that's a little clunky, but it encompasses a lot more. You don't have you don't have to label it with some like classical or jazz or whatever, kind of labels. And your guys' music is kind of amorphous when it comes to putting a specific label on it. So anyway, back to the original the question I was asking before diverging. Do you guys have backgrounds in this kind of stuff? Have you always been into this, or was it more of it kind of flowered once you started like being a part of the group and deciding what you wanted to do?
Well, yeah, I have more of a background in classical improvisation, so coming from the school of playing a Mozart concerto, for example, and improvising a cadenza, so improvising in a very strict tonal kind of setting. And then coming to New York about 2 years ago, started really getting into the free improv scene. And then I think that was the vehicle that was like, all right, I can do this free improv, let me develop a language with that. So then it kind of became jazz and gospel and all these more popular forms.
So, I mean, improvisation, like when it comes up in conversation with musicians and such, like in heavy classical circles, it kind of gets pushed off into like improvisation is for these guys.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna play. Even I've had experiences with master classes where you try to change one small thing, whether it's a dynamic or a crescendo or a phrase marking in a Brahms piece. Like you'll have a teacher come down on you like, no, is that what's on the page? Like heavy guys, like guys who have really great jobs and are really good at their instrument. These serious guys, and they come in and they're like, no. So. But you just mentioned classical improvisation, and we'll shift back into more about the trio itself. But
sure.
Like, what do you it's a kind of a niche that is very like it's something that comes out of like we always talk about playing things in a traditional fashion. Classical improvisation was the tradition for a very long time. Why were you doing that? Like because like I said, it's easy to get boxed into just doing whatever a written cadenza is or some famous performer's cadenza, like in a Mozart piano concerto per se.
Yeah. Just to be, I think it added a level of freshness to it. So like the first time I really got brave enough to do something was I did an all Chopin recital, maybe 5 years ago now. And it was like I had this really cool concept of, all right, all these keys will kind of fit in the progression of the music as it went on. So it was like almost an hour of continuous things like that flowed well into the other. Good program. But there was one fucking piece that didn't fit that I just had to throw in there because I had to perform it. But it just didn't fit in the program. So I said, okay, let me put it here and just create my own bridge between the two pieces. And then, I had heard about the traditions of like Horowitz, like just to get a little pedantic, but like the early pianists of the 20th century, like they would do that. They try to keep that tradition from the Romantic era. So from Franz Liszt, Chopin, all these amazing pianists, when improvisation, as you said, was right in the tradition. So I thought about really trying to connect with that because I'm playing their music. And apparently, even somebody like Chopin, we have, as a classical pianist, we, really revere his music, what's written. But there's so many letters that say everything that's written of Chopin really pale, written by Chopin, really pale in comparison to his improvisations that maybe only his circle of like 5 to 10 friends would hear. So things that we never heard of, will never have experienced, was like, they were like, this is like the fucking best ever. And yeah, he wrote really cool stuff, but if only you could have heard.
There was so much more in that guy's head that never got penned.
Exactly. But a select few were privy to that. So yeah, but That was a brief little masterclass.
No, but it's really
Yeah,
interesting because I talk to a lot of new music people,
Sure.
and we talk. Improvisation has started to come back in a really big way, but it's a lot more related to what you mentioned, like more of a free improvising, free improv ensembles where there is a structure, but it's not a Bach, Brahms, Chopin
So that leaning
structure,
kind of, yeah.
So it's a whole new thing and it's great.
Yeah,
But like I always like talking about this improvising culture within traditional music because it feels like it's been lost, particularly when it comes to larger ensembles and more free expression and musicality within like an orchestra or a string quartet or or whatever you want to say. Anyway, so like that, Josh, what about your background in getting into like the vibe of what you guys do now?
Yeah. I mean, I probably of the three of us, Ju Young's pretty. It's interesting why how he's the one that thought of the trio, but he's very very much like very classic. He's excellent. He's like the best cellist like ever. But very very Juilliard and very classical minded. I started. I've always, like, my parents weren't necessarily. I mean, they kind of played instruments, but there's always other types of music. Like I grew up just listening to all the like rock and stuff from the '60s and a lot of '80s music from my dad, like Duran Duran. All this stuff was like a big influence on me. And my first violin teacher was like a jazz violinist. And just when I moved to Nashville when I was a kid, so I started playing in like bands and like stuff like that, like country stuff and folk and indie rock stuff from an early age, and that led to other more experimental stuff. So there's always that. I was always into that type of stuff, growing up, and then probably less so much in like undergrad because I had to practice and stuff like that. But then when I moved here, I was immediately just like, I need to find like a band to play with. Like I used to play in like some frat rock stuff, just like Zeppelin-esque glam band thing, and all kinds of different, just like like electrics, and so that's always been a very big part of my musical identity. So that's always it's always been there.
It's always there. Well, it's I find it interesting talking to musicians who are like when you meet someone like on an orchestra gig and you find out all of this other stuff that they do in the 10 minutes, the 10-minute break. Yeah. You're like, wait, why are you playing in this orchestra? And they're like, oh, because it pays. I need $50. That beer's not going to pay for itself, unless I know the bartender. Anyway, so like let's say you're doing, you were just recently doing some shows down south, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, that region, so like for I don't want to say a typical, but like for one of your typical shows, what kind of, how does that look? Wait, what are you putting on there that's different from your from your traditional piano trio concert at the recital hall?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have a few different types of shows, but I guess for the last little trip, it was just a trio, and we play a couple of schools. We also play like on a series that like would generally host like your typical, typical chamber music groups, and it was in a town called Aiken, South Carolina. It was an older, like it's like a retirement community type of. That wasn't a retirement home, but we totally do those. But there was this older crowd, and it's really interesting, like taking this types of music and playing it for different types of demographics and types of people. But so like we got there, we didn't have like a program. Most of that's because I forgot to mail that. But we can. But there's always like talking from the stage. There's like some audience interaction. The repertoire choices are probably the biggest difference. We mainly do stuff we write, and a little bit of some contemporary stuff. But I think it's important. Like a key thing is that not necessarily for us, but like one of the main reasons why Young JY so the group was to connect with audiences in like a new contemporary way. So not just to play new music or to play our music to satisfy ourselves in the masturbatory way, but also like we want to play this music that like people are going to be like into, and like a wide array of people are going to be like into, and try and connect with them on some way. And it's really cool to do that with like a community of like old white people in South Carolina, and then do it with like a community of like young black kids in like San Francisco or like our last tour, and like play some of the same stuff. Obviously, we alter stuff a little bit to kind of tailor to the group. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is that is the key thing in playing for people that we try and make different than some groups, just to really match with the audience and to really say something to them, and also push them a little bit. Like if they might not be into quote unquote new music or jazz or whatever. You guys can't see me, but I'm doing little thingies with my quotation marks.
Air quotes work really well on audio. Yeah. That's great.
I'm all about the air quotes. But yeah, just that insistence on that connection, and also like stretching people a little bit. It's been fortunate so far. I'm sure we'll get tomatoes thrown at us at some point. But,
does anyone still do that? Is tomato throwing a thing? Like, you have to like plan to do that. You have to like get tomatoes and bring them to a show and be like, I'm probably going to hate these people, so I'm going to bring tomatoes, pay for the ticket, and then throw them. That was a useless digression.
No, I'm just thinking about salads.
Well, you just brought up an interesting point about connecting with crowds of very different backgrounds. You, Josh, you grew up in the South, kind of in the same region that I did, and there's an interesting, and we talked about this a lot I talked about this a lot with Pitch Black Brass Band, and we really dug into it. But in music, right? In music now, diversity has become such a strange issue. As far as like you're playing in an ensemble, and it's like why is there really only white people who play? It's kind of but you're kind of talking about this because people can't see this, but Josh is black. Mikael
is brown.
Okay. I'm JY is neither, but
stop using color.
Anyway. But it's a issue. It is an issue, like that especially if you're playing in a southern state. You specifically said playing for an older white audience in Aiken, South Carolina, which is a town that I know. Bought a car there once. But like, wait, what is it that you kind of see? When you're out playing in New York. People will assume that it's not really an issue. It is, but it manifests itself differently.
Yeah.
What are these things that how am I trying to ask this? How does it affect what you do? Like, how do you approach these kinds of things? Like, I don't know. I think it's an important thing to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that that like we're a very international group, not on purpose, but just like sometimes with a drummer, and he's Puerto Rican / like white dude, and I think it's just great to see. I feel like sometimes you see like, it's like an all black whatever trio or all black quintet. I think that's I feel that's not like cool. I mean, it's like cool like in the 70s or whatever, but it's like, all right, we can get past that. Let's have just people just making music I'm also doing this thing with my hands now where I'm putting the fingers together
Interlocking.
to interlocking them, which you guys can't see. But I mean, I just like the fact that it's just different types of people connecting over music and music that doesn't necessarily have people that don't necessarily need to have labels, and music that doesn't necessarily have to have a label. And I think I'd like for people to see that and just to see how we can get along and have make a product and just do something together, and maybe they can do something together too, and not think about
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a headlining issue.
Yeah.
But it just for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, but now it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's something that all musicians have to like look at seriously.
Yeah.
Like, why are you hiring this group of people and not this group of people, kind of a thing. And like you said, it's this kind of like coming together. Like, what? Just hire good musicians.
Yeah.
And another point that, like, coming from what Josh was talking about, is us having such different backgrounds that we each have our own musical tastes.
They're different.
So that when we write music or we bring ideas to the group to be in new compositions, our programs are really diverse sometimes. And like, I haven't really sat down and thought about some of the programs that we've done. I was like, holy shit, like, we just did like folk song with rap next to like a Bach quotation. You know what I mean? So it's like really, really, every song is like kind of different, I believe. And it's funny to hear like what you expect certain groups of audiences to like.
Yeah.
And then to be surprised by like, hey, this song connected with me, even though it's something like I've never heard in Georgia before or something. So it's like, that's pretty cool too, is that because we're so different that we each bring something different, composition wise and background wise to the play.
Cool. So we're talking about it, about like these like you just brought up your programming and like how it's all of this different stuff, like kind of this taking from dozens of different influences and putting them together into something, nowadays as a musician, like it's all about diversifying like what you can do as a musician. If you're the guy if you're the bass player who can only play a specific 300 years of classical repertoire, it's going to be a little more difficult. But on the flip side of that, like there is a camp that says, well, if you're diversifying so much, like how are you good at any of these things? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily subscribe to that myself, because I'm building my own, I built my own career on diversifying what I can do. But like as a string trio, as a piano trio, there is such a long tradition of music and stuff. Is that something that you ever like consider as like, are we diversifying too much? Is that something that comes up where it happens to be a concern, or is it just something you just like, well, it's working?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I'm always of the camp of just like, let's put everything and do all these things and like sing and dance and have fireworks and all kinds of crazy shit all at the same time. And people are always like, not for this group in particular, but for other groups that I've been in are kind of a creative part in it. They're like, oh, it's too much, and people in like marketing or advertising are always like, you gotta find your niche, and you gotta find your audience and stuff like that. And I feel that's what everyone always gets told, like all the time, like, oh, you gotta have like a very focused thing. And this group it's been really great. Like just like Mikael said, like the programs are they cover a lot of ground, and we've had we've had like a lot of success, like in terms of audience reaction, and also just like we like make money, and that's cool. So I'm like, I think we think we are right now. We're trying to push that, like, yes, let's kind of stretch ourselves a little bit, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to a point where it's like it's out of control, ridiculous, and extravagant, and
that's okay. But that's okay. That can be okay. Like, even with something where you're doing so many different things
Mm-hmm.
and to create these concerts and this repertoire that well at this point like only you guys do, but, you're already doing so many different things. It can be easy also to just be like, okay, we're doing enough different things.
Yeah.
And like the idea of like having to keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
You may hit a point where you're like, okay, maybe we've hit our limit as far as like what we can do with this setup.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you guys do, it's not always just the three of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do stuff with drums, you do stuff with electronics, you do, all this stuff. At the same time, you might never hit that point.
Yeah.
Like, and if you stop pushing it, like, you might be just boxing yourself in.
True.
So, in the spirit of continuing to push further, like, what kind of things are you currently looking at to push beyond like what you're necessarily doing right now?
Yeah, I think she was here. He's really super into this idea of collaboration. I think that's super key for like this, classical music in general and new music to really, get into the public. Like, we have to team up with people whose music is popular or it's being listened to and stuff like that. So we had just some other collaborations in the works with like some singers and some dancers, and we're writing some bigger pieces for like three of us, and orchestra and stuff like that. But keeping that at the core of like a trio, and then like adding on and presenting bigger stuff. But yeah.
So just like expanding as far as you can with
and just like not being afraid to be like, oh, this is a cool idea, like let's try and do it. That's how most of the stuff that we do comes up. Like, we'll just sit around and just talk shit like all day. And be like, man, that'd be dope if we like DJ set, and then
I buy turntables and
then what will happen? We'll put it into existence. And I think it's just always thinking of stuff, and because anything can work if you make it. You just sit down and like hash it out. But just not being afraid to.
But what you said earlier, I think, even though we do all this other shit, like we're always expanding. We know we're pretty honest with ourselves. Like, even if we do the work and write some shit, and we're like, fuck, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Let's scrap that.
Yeah.
So we're cool. We're like, we put the hard work, and we're like, we judge it and say, nope.
That's a really important thing, because you can, if you're building on always trying different things, new things, you have to make sure that every new thing you do is of very high quality, or else you're just like, oh yeah, they experiment a bunch, some of it works. You have to make sure this works, and if you're not on it, if you're like deceiving yourself into being like, oh yeah, this is totally great, and then you go and play it and it falls flat, then well, you have to like, you guys nip that in the bud early. Before it goes any further. You guys keep yourselves, accountable to each other about like being honest.
Oh, definitely. And Junior's super into like just like what you just said, just like your product, make sure your product is good, and also something that even if we expand, have like a circus band or something that carries along the artistic like foundation of just like something new, something kind of modern composed, a little bit of the old stuff, like reference to like we always have some element of quote unquote old classical music, and something that has that, and with our trio stamp approval on it, to push that out at a high level to the general viewing and listening public. But yeah.
So you guys, and of course, this trio is not the only thing you guys do. You are professional musicians in a larger sense as well. Pretty much no one can just make their money off of one ensemble. It's just not how, so, but you guys you play orchestras, you play chamber music, like traditional chamber music concerts. And, do you find it difficult sometimes to balance the experimental side with the, I need to make sure I'm practicing and making sure that I'm still top notch for everything else as well?
Yeah, I think, I am fortunate, like I have a very low standard of living, So like, so I don't necessarily need to take like a teaching job where I have to teach for like 12 hours a day, and to eat
Survive,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I'm fortunate. I moved here at an age young enough where I was able to get enough connections and just blessed with opportunities to be able to have enough gigs and stuff like that where I can support myself and eat and stuff like that, but also have the time that I need to practice and to like learn other music and do the projects that I want to do now, because I feel like it's so hard to live in New York City to just pay for stuff, and a lot of people you have to work a lot. And I think if you're working a lot, or if you're working in a lot of non like constructive environment for your art, like if I had some shitty job doing violin related stuff and something I did in capacity I hated, I think that's really destructive. So it's better for me to, all right, let's have some free time, not free time, but just time to do what I want to do, and balance that, that the real aspect of like we have to pay for stuff and be adults. Luckily I don't have any kids, so it's fine. But and again, I have a low standard of living, so it works out great for me.
I have a high standard of living. But I'm at the phase where I think sleep is overrated. So I make it work.
You don't sleep because sleep is the cousin of death.
Amen.
So, do all three of you compose for the trio?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm most familiar with Josh's compositional oeuvre, if you will. Because you've written for Trevor, who's sitting over here recording.
Right.
But all three of you write. Do all three of you have this very distinct styles that we'll talk. We can talk a little bit about like how each of you write differently for the group, and how that highlights different aspects of what you guys do.
Sure. I tend to write more. Like I'll think of something and I'll write it down like on a notation program, and like it'll be like scored, and there'll be like sections for improvisation or stuff like that. And when I write for this group, I usually leave. I mean, usually with the understanding that it will be changed in some way. I don't necessarily finish certain spots. I might have like an idea of something, like, all right, Mikael, so I know he can make something that will pianistically work and be better than what I can do as a not like good piano player, but someone that's highly skilled at their instrument can like take this idea and be like, okay, let me just do this. For this group, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's you run into that a lot when you're playing new pieces. Is people writing things that sound good on finale or Sibelius, and then are just miserable to play.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, sure, it's doable, but it's not. It doesn't lie well for the instrument. But if you're dealing with musicians that you can trust to, if you trust their artistic vision as well, like you can be like, do something like this with these chords.
Yeah.
It works out pretty well. I would imagine.
So me, I'm a little different. Like I've been composing for about 10 years now, like really intense since I was a teenager, and I just got composing software, like
really,
like last month. so like Josh was saying, he's a little more specific when he's doing his notational things, and everything I wrote was by hand. Which I have the worst handwriting. So it's basically me like handing Josh a stack of papers, like very lead sheet style. And it's funny because I'm so into the lead sheet kind of like, this is just this one thing and let's really improvise off of this and create our own thing. But then I have like really specific things that are like, no, this has to happen. So it's like a weird balance of that. And but now with this notational software, I see what you mean. Like I'm writing more shit, like more things, and I'm like, feel like it's so easy to click and do this, but
Mhm.
like I kind of miss being at the piano and like working these things out because it's like I'm like I actually have to play this shit.
Yeah.
People have to play this shit because it's really easy to like conceptualize something
Yeah.
and then hear it and say that sounds dope, and then we're like, yeah, we have like 8 different ties that we just got at the same time, like
So I need
between
13
3
fingers.
people. Like, what'd you say?
Also, I need 13 fingers to play.
Yeah, yeah. I need another pianist.
Can we just like loop a MIDI sample in the background and then I'll just play over it? Because that sounds good always.
Yeah.
So you both of you are talking about this. We're going to talk some more about improvisation. You guys. It's very central to how you guys operate. In jazz, like you're dealing with specific chord changes, and that's a specific skill. In traditional classical improvisation, you're dealing with a piece and improvisation within that, and that's a specific skill.
Sure.
But when you're dealing with 3 guys who might be improvising different things all at the same time, like that's a whole different ball game. You're taking a solo in a way, but you're not taking a solo over specific changes necessarily. Sure, specific chord structures.
Sure.
So you guys have been doing this for 2 years now. How does this work on kind of a granular level with you guys going back and forth with different ideas and different perspectives within the structure of this piece?
Yeah.
This kind of something that's actually a composed piece.
Well, the cool thing is that ever since kind of like the group started performing, we've been lucky enough to have steady performances, like pretty consistently, like for the past year and 7 months or something.
I mean, we're talking like multiple performances.
Multiple performances. So like to try shit out, especially we have new ideas and we
That's
So,
the thing.
yeah,
that
so
you
it's
run
different
into.
every time,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing you run into is like these people who put together these groups, and a lot of times, at most, they're performing once a month. Like you're doing it. It takes time. They book a show once a month, and they do that. But 12 times a year is just not that much.
it's hard to grow.
Yeah, like as a group.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, but no, that's the kind of train of thought I was going with. Is like we've gotten to really try out things that we feel passionate about, and then say, okay, that was a bad idea, but this happened, and then we started getting more comfortable because every group needs that, as you said. They need to play together. I need to know Josh's language, because when improvisers play together for so long, they kind of think together, which is amazing. You see groups like Anthony Braxton or like his ensemble, or I'm a huge fan of Craig Taborn Trio. These kind of groups, it's like one mind, and it's there's some structure and a lot of ideas, but listening to them do different versions of the same thing, it's like, wow, this direction they took, probably untalked about. They didn't talk about it, but it just happens, and it's really always consider jazz and like free improv, these kind of group things, to be an almost higher level of chamber music in a way, because of course we come from a tradition of Beethoven, Bach, Brahms, all these amazing chamber pieces, but like free improv, man, you're literally listening and reacting to what they're doing
Every second.
every second. You can't let up. You can't ease up.
Even great, chamber, let's say great string quartets.
Yeah, Emerson Quartet.
Emerson. Like I remember, I saw them do a concert with Haydn quartets, which is fine. I like Haydn, and like they're awesome, and they've been playing together forever, and so it's the kind of thing. But even with the best quartet playing that kind of music, like sure they're listening and reacting to what other people are doing. But with those pieces, you can switch off a little bit, because if you're after 20 years of playing this this same classical rep, you can turn off a little bit and still react to what other people are doing.
Yeah.
But in an open improvisation setting, you can't ever. You have to like just open yourself to whatever's happening.
Yeah. Well, I do think there's like overlap. I know a lot of the Emerson guys. I'm at Stony Brook where
Mm-hmm.
they teach chamber music, and I think with them in particular, they've been together so long, and they have this new cellist now, Paul Watkins, who's like really amazing and has a very new energy that was injected into the group. But yeah, it's all subtlety, you know, with that. It's really subtle, and I think it's still there. It's on a more just sophisticated, subtle level.
To be clear, I'm not trying
Yeah,
to say anything
sure,
bad about
sure.
because they're a great string quartet.
I know what you mean, but if everything's laid out in front of you and you know what's about to happen.
Yeah, like those guys don't need the music.
Yeah, there's a certain level of... I know what you mean by check out. You don't mean like...
I don't mean
shut
physically
off.
shut
Yeah,
off
yeah,
and like
yeah.
play poorly. I just mean like, but at a certain level, like yeah, at a certain level though, with you know, Haydn has its challenges, but one of its challenges aren't necessarily difficulty of notes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
using
yeah.
Haydn as a specific example, obviously they play, you know, everything. But like yeah, I mean, you play this piece literally hundreds of times. Sure.
But yeah, like to continue in that, like my only jazz mentor is this guy named Ray Anderson, who's a trombonist at Stony Brook, and he used to play with Anthony Braxton back in the day, and he was telling me, you know, one time they were playing, and I think Anthony came up to him and was like, after the gig, was like, look, sometimes I'm here doing my shit, you stay over there and do your own shit. So it's like, sometimes, even with jazz, there's like, sometimes with the free improv, you try to relate and react off what somebody's doing, and they're like, give me my fucking space, like, let me do what I'm doing. So it's all subtle, like, you just have to know where to be, where to fit, when to be, and sometimes you improvise, and Josh is doing something, and it's not related to me, but it kind of inspires me to improvise in a different way. So it's always about creating your own. And I think as a group, we're like, because we've been able to perform so much over the past, you know, just a short period of time, but it's like we really started to get into that, which is cool.
So how do you rehearse that?
Well, I think there's
Practice.
in our
Rehearse?
Practice? What? It's jazz, baby. Good.
but there's in our compositions there's spots for different types of improvisation. There's a lot of written out stuff, but also like, you know, like traditional, like, oh, these chords, and Josh's gonna play the bass line, and then Juno's gonna play some stuff over it or whatever. And then there's this free element, and I think the free element we do sometimes. We're just like we'll just, you know, if we have some time, just kind of sit and just play some stuff. Like, that's not necessarily a part of a composition or whatever, but just to practice that listening. And we do this with other groups and stuff like that too. So there's always something going on to just do.
I think that's a great exercise. It's just you meet whatever group you're playing with, and classical musicians need to do this a little more.
A little more? They need to do a fuck ton more.
I was being generous. Fuck yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, really, like, start a rehearsal after you tune, just fucking improvise, free, like, speak. Because they have to learn to communicate themselves a little more. And it's the best way to know. Like, you can see what somebody's about from what they play.
Yeah, that's something interesting. Like, it's so important as individual musicians as well as, you know, within a group, developing a personal voice. You know,
Amen. Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. Like, what's good, what's not good. If I develop in this direction, is that just going to be garbage? You know, or, you know, do I develop it in this direction and something that's more, you know, might be more accepted, or like there's so many things, but it feels like a lot of times, you know, if you stick within, you know, your normal settings, like there's so few opportunities unless you make them yourself. There's not very many opportunities for people to work on developing a unique voice because you're so focused on being a part of a group. And I don't know. It feels like sometimes, like, you can do both. Like, you can have an individual voice as part of a group, and
Like we keep dancing around this like thing, this idea of like how you guys work, and it seems to me that's really what it boils down to is three musicians who have very strong personal voices, who have found a way to like intermingle them without into a unique whole without losing that individuality.
Yeah. I think people sometimes are afraid because there's like certain like archetypes, like, oh, you should sound like this type of violinist or this type of trombonist or whatever and stuff. But like I think it's we lose that, or you get afraid to like really do our voice. And I heard this a friend of mine. He does he does porn, and he was saying how
what?
Like, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. And he was just saying, I was like, man, if you want to do porn, man, like, doesn't matter who you are, like fat, skinny, you got like one leg or whatever, like you can do porn, like because there's somebody for you, like that will be super into your whatever you are porn. I think that's so true to musicians. Like if you just treat yourself and just like, I got my sound, like I'm gonna like own this sound, and like someone will be into it. Like, yeah, because people watch like fucked up shit on the internet. And they definitely will listen to some, maybe not standard sounding trombone or trumpet player or something like that or whatever. Yeah. Like, just gotta own it and just,
and even being able to take that unique voice and place it within an orchestra.
Yeah.
Place it within a solo chamber music setting, traditional solo or chamber music setting, and then place it within a big band, place it within a rock band. Like there's so many more things you can do if you develop a flexible, unique sound that's you. And then as long if you're good and you keep practicing, like if you've gotten so far down along the road of developing a unique sound, you're gonna be good at your instrument.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that without working on it, kind of a thing. Yeah. So what kind of things are you like working towards right now? Like recording wise, touring wise, new music, new things, new projects.
All of the above.
All the above.
But you have to be more specific about it. I can't just go with that.
All right. So March, I think we might be back out West Coast in like April, and try to get down to the Caribbean for the first part of April, and then trying to do some recording of some stuff in May, late May, early June. We have a little EP out. We're trying to get a full whatchamacallit, album.
LP.
Yeah. LP. Long.
And we just are finished, like, tying up the ribbon now on this suite we did. So it's a suite for, what do we call it? Electronic.
Oh yeah, official stuff.
Trio.
Yeah.
And drum sets. Is that the official title?
Drum set obbligato.
Okay, yeah. So what's that all about?
It's just like a I guess when you go to a chamber music concert and you see like, we're gonna play string quartet number 8, and it's gonna have like allegro, largo, scherzo,
rondo.
Yeah.
That's a 4 or 5 movement, suite for piano, trio, and drum set.
So what about that? I mean, you're finishing this up right now. Like what are the things that relate to maybe a traditional suite?
Oh yeah, like
and then the things that are like completely out.
Gotcha. Formally we're trying to keep it like that. There's a little preludio, and there's a little scherzo. We actually have a video of the quote unquote scherzo movement on the site, and we're gonna make an album version. But yeah, so it's like those elements. And there's a slow movement. There's a kind of rondo-y, not a rondo, but it's more like funk type stuff. But
slow fast.
Yeah.
You kind of do the traditional. Even going back to Haydn, it's like his early symphony model of 4 movements, alternating tempo, and kind of unified by different ideas we had, and I was really obsessed with like Indian music for like the past 5 years. Indian meaning Hindustani, northern Indian classical music. And so one of the movies is called Raga Jam.
Mm-hmm.
So but we kind of incorporate those ideas and funk, and there's like a canon in there. It's like, so like a lot of. It's gonna be cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we've performed it a couple times already.
Yeah.
But that hasn't been and recorded, and it changes. We're still finding, experimenting.
Still fine tuning things. Yeah.
Cool.
So that'll be on the full LP.
And what's the name of the EP? I should know this. I did see it. I did look at it and stuff, but I don't remember the name.
That's called Warp Drive.
Right. All right. Yeah. So.
Did you put that ratchet ass car?
So we got Warp Drive EP, LP in the near future.
Yeah.
And you guys are on Facebook, and the Twitter. And
Instagram.
The Instagram.
Yeah, the Instagram.
And you go, what is it, warptrio.com?
Yeah.
Yep.
All
Okay,
right.
it's simple.
Yeah, well, it feels like no one's probably going to hop on that that address. I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah.
Speaking of it, probably some porn site. But you got, so in March and April, you guys are going to be playing, it's, basically 4 dates. Check the website, check the social media.
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys are always playing.
And we're doing a tour in February, this month, and another week-long thing.
Yeah, back down south.
South. Different cities, but same area.
Cool.
One question.
Oh!
Trevor, hello.
Trevor.
Yeah,
Trevor
let me jump in. So when you guys are doing, a little echo. When you guys are doing educational shows, going to schools, like what are you guys trying to project to like a group of kids, and kind of in general, what kind of a mark would you guys want to leave on the music scene?
Oh, that's a great
What you
question.
guys are doing?
That's an awesome question. Basically, just don't do drugs, stay in school. It's some real positive shit. No, it's fine. We, in general, I mean all that stuff too, but I think we stress, because we do a lot of workshops for not necessarily music students. We do that too, but just be creative, and don't be afraid to get out of your box. Like a lot of stuff we do with the non-musician students are just like, all right, let's put them on the spot. Let's do some whatever acting, say some stuff. Just get out of your head, get out of yourself, and don't be afraid to do that. And also practice hard and stuff like that, and listen to your mom. But yeah,
Or dad, yeah.
just musically, musically or not musically, because we definitely want to connect with not just musicians but all the kids. Just do you, and do it hard, and do it well.
Yeah, and this theme of music and art being approachable, I think, is something that relates to everything we do. To answer some of your early question about the different demographics, I think. Yeah, this is not, let down, relax, taking some good vibes.
Cool.
Good question, George.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thanks for
Thanks,
having
yeah.
us, man.
And it should be good.
Cool.